Good evening. Good evening, everybody. By way of introduction, my name is Davis Fields. I'm the chair of the Campbell Planning Commission. Welcome to tonight's meeting of April 28th, 2026. I'd love to call this meeting to order. Ken, can we have a roll call, please?
Commissioner Scissor.
Here.
Commissioner Kamkar.
Here.
Commissioner Alney.
Here.
Commissioner Buckbinder.
Present.
Vice Chair Aquilina.
Present.
Chair Fields.
Present. Moving to the second item on the minutes. Has everyone had a chance to review the minutes? Motion?
No, I have a comment.
Edit.
So I had to be picky, but on the report of the Community Development Director, if I'm not mistaken, the director brought up the future council meeting that was going to come the following week about the starter homes. And so that's not on the list of things that he mentioned, and there was some brief discussion. So I would like that, if I'm not mistaken about that, I'd like that be added as another bullet item to the report of the Community Development Director.
Okay. Any other? Would you like to make a motion with that included?
Sure, I'll move to approve the minutes of April 14th, 2026.
Do I have
With the amendments.
With the amendment to the director's report.
do I have a second?
Second.
Ken, can we have a roll call, please?
Commissioner Scissor.
Aye.
Commissioner Kamkar.
Aye.
Commissioner Buckbinder.
Aye.
Vice Chair Aquilina.
Aye.
Chair Fields.
Aye.
And Commissioner Alney.
There he is. All right, next item, communications or agenda modifications, Director Eastwood. Do we have either?
Chair Fields, honorable commissioners, no communications, agenda modifications, or postponements.
Thank you. Next section is oral requests. I'm going to open the public portion of this meeting. This is the point of the meeting. The public can speak on any item that is not on the agenda. We have one item on the agenda, which is the environmental report about a property. But you have up to 2 minutes if you'd like to come and address the council about anything that is not on the agenda. Besides that, can I get a quick show of hands? Anyone here who'd like to speak on anything that's not on the agenda tonight? All right, going once, going twice. Anybody in line? All right, closing oral requests. We're moving on to the public hearing. This is going to give you a brief overview of how this goes. We have the staff presentation. We're going to hear about the first and only item on the agenda. Then it goes to the commission where we're all going to ask some questions about this item. We will then open up public comment. You can fill out a speaker card. You're welcome to come up for up to 2 minutes. Please say who you are when you do and share your opinions. Tonight is not a decision-making meeting. We're here to really hear public input on this property. There will be future meetings where we are deciding on this property. This is more about getting input on the environmental report for this property. So with that, let's do item number 2 on the agenda, which is the Campbell Technology Park DEIR public hearing with staffer Daniel Fava.
All right, thank you. Good evening. So this is a public comment meeting on the Campbell Technology Park Project's draft environmental impact report, the DEIR. So the purpose of this meeting is to solicit and receive public comment on the EIR from the public at large, as well as the commission. And as the chair noted, this is not a decision-making meeting. So this is simply a listening session and for staff to answer any questions the commission may have on the draft EIR. So brief agenda, we'll go through introductions. We do have consultant staff online, project a little bit about what CEQA is and where we stand with the environmental review to date. So of course, Rob and I are here online. We have Stantec staff, Anna and Jenny, who are here to do part of the presentation and to address any questions on the CEQA review the commission may have. So in terms of the project site, so this currently is the Campbell Technology Park, which is a 280,000 square foot R&D campus that consists of 4 buildings and 4 parcels spanning 17 acres. This is located along Campbell Technology Parkway, north of McGlincy. It is currently zoned PD, plan development, with a research and development general plan designation. The proposed project is a 290 unit housing development project consisting of 27 detached single-family homes, 149 three-story townhome style condos, and 114 four-story townhome style condos. This is the city's sole builder's remedy project that was submitted in 2023 under a preliminary application during a period where the city did not have a certified housing element. And with that, I will hand it off to Anna.
Okay, good evening. Can everybody hear me?
Yes, yes, we can.
Okay, good evening, Chair, members of the Planning Commission and the public. My name is Anna Radnich. I'm a principal planner with Stantec, and on behalf of the city, we prepared the CEQA document for the project. An EIR was prepared. So what is CEQA? What is an EIR? CEQA is the California Environmental Quality Act. So it's the state's foundation environmental review law, basically. And an EIR is an environmental impact report. And it's just one type of CEQA document, but it is the one that was prepared for this project. The purpose of CEQA is really to inform decision makers and the public and to identify ways to avoid, reduce, or mitigate significant environmental impacts where feasible. So this could be done through mitigation measures or project alternatives. But keep in mind that an EIR does not approve or deny a project. Rather, it ensures environmental effects are disclosed and that they're considered as part of the public decision-making process. So as you'll see on the next slide in a sec, CEQA provides meaningful opportunities for public input. So here on this slide, the graphic is basically an overview of the process. And so just the high level is squares that are in green are opportunities for public input throughout the process. There's 6 opportunities. And the yellow star is where we're at in the process tonight. So an initial study was prepared for this project and released for public review about a year ago on January 6, 2025. And the NOP was that first invite to the party. It was the first, hey, we're releasing it. Here's your opportunities for input. Comments received during the NOP process were incorporated into the EIR. And then that's what's in front of you tonight. Any comments received tonight will then be incorporated into the final EIR. So then on the slide that's currently up, this is kind of walking us through a recap of the initial study. So this slide probably looks familiar if you were at the NOP scoping meeting last January. All 20 resources of the Appendix G CEQA guidelines are required to be reviewed for this project, for every project. But some of the resources were scoped out of the EIR through that initial study process. So it doesn't mean that we didn't analyze the resources, but under CEQA, an initial study identifies resource areas that have potential for significant impacts and provides the technical legal basis for focusing your EIR analysis on those topics, allowing other resources to be scoped out. So here, these 11 resources were determined through the initial study process to scope out of the EIR. The ones that are not in bold, so everything except for biological resources and geology and soils, those all resulted in less than significant impacts without the need for mitigation, or there was no impact. But the 2 biological resources and geology and soils did have mitigation measures. Next slide, please. And here's a summary of those mitigation measures. So the first, really, it's 4 mitigations. It's hard to tell the 4 bullets on the right. So bioresources for a candidate sensitive or special status species, those had 3 mitigation measures identified. So pre-construction surveys for Northern California legless lizards, nesting birds, and roosting bats. And then there was a 4th mitigation measure for bioimpact E, and that was the implementation of the city's tree protection ordinance. And then on the next slide, it goes over the remaining mitigation measures identified in the initial study, which is from geology and soils. So they're in regard to the topics of seismic hazards, unstable geologic unit or soil, and expansive soils. and that's through preparation of design level geotech report. On this slide, we move to the EIR. So as I mentioned earlier, we prepared the NOP, we prepared the initial study to support the NOP, and coming out of that, the draft EIR was prepared to analyze the remaining 9 resources that you see here. So like the initial study slide, the impacts that are less than significant without mitigation are shown in standard text. And the 5 resources that do require mitigation are shown in bold, and they're summarized on the next slide, please. So these are those same 5 as the previous slide that were in bold, just to make it really clear. And then on the next slide, kind of the same thing as the mitigation measures for the initial study. Excuse me. Here's a summary of the mitigation measures. So air quality did require mitigation for the impact related to sensitive receptors. There were 2 mitigation measures identified. So minimize construction exhaust emissions and HEPA filter maintenance schedule information. Under cultural resources, the 3 cultural resource questions, so historic resources, archaeological resources, and human remains, all had the same 3 mitigation measures that were applicable. These are pretty typical mitigation measures for cultural resources. So it's archaeological monitoring plan and archaeological monitoring, cultural resources, sensitivity training, and procedures in the event of discovery. So what do you do if you do discover a resource? Next slide, thanks. So here we're summarizing the land use and planning mitigation measures. So the impacts were related to would the project conflict with plans, policies, or regulations? And we did identify that it would in terms related back to air quality. So this HEPA filter maintenance schedule information is that same mitigation measure that you saw on the previous slide for air quality. Transportation, 2 of the impact questions, trans A and C, which were conflict with program, plan, ordinance, or policy and hazard design feature. These both have the same mitigation measure, which is to construct a pedestrian improvements. Lastly, tribal cultural resources, there was an identified potential impact needing mitigation, and these are the same 3 mitigation measures that were identified in cultural resources. So under CEQA guidelines, cumulative impacts are also required to be evaluated. So cumulative impacts refer to 2 or more individual projects when considered together are considered to if they could increase other environmental impacts or not combined. So, excuse me, the cumulative impact from a single or several separate projects, it's really the change in the environment, which would result from that incremental impact of the project when added to other closely related past, present, and reasonably foreseeable projects. So cumulative impacts can result from individually minor but collectively significant projects taking place over a period of time. The Campbell Tech Park project, though, in conjunction with related projects, would not have a cumulatively considerable impact on environmental resources. So that is a chapter in our document. And then also under CEQA, project alternatives. So CEQA requires that alternatives to a proposed project that they have the potential to avoid or that they be identified and have the potential to actually avoid or substantially lessen 1 or more significant effects of the project. So the Campbell Tech Park project itself does not have a significant unavoidable impact, sometimes referred to as like an SU impact that maybe you've seen on other projects, but project alternatives are still required to be reviewed. And so we look at project alternatives which could reduce and further reduce any of our impacts that already have mitigation identified for them. Under CEQA, CEQA requires identification of an environmentally superior alternative as well, not just automatic selection of the smallest or no project. So on this slide, we outline the 2 in black bold are the 2 project alternatives that were identified specifically for this project. The no project, no development alternative, So under this project alternative, the site would remain developed with the existing uses and structures. Nothing would change. And under the no project future development alternative, the project could be redeveloped per what has been envisioned in the city's current general plan. So that would result in 3 of the parcels being developed and resulting in about 467 units. And then the 4th parcel would have the remaining R&D use, or would have the R&D use remain and the structure remain. So in the case of this project, the proposed project has been identified as the environmentally superior alternative because it meets all of the project objectives and would result in the least amount of impacts. Next slide. So mitigation, monitoring and reporting program. So earlier on, we broke out the initial study potential impacts and mitigations, as well as the EIR potential impacts and mitigations. And the reason we did that is because your MMRP is a culmination of all mitigation measures that are required for the project, not just the mitigation measures that are identified in your EIR. So it's a way, an MMRP is prepared at the end with the final EIR, and it's a way to actually ensure that mitigation measures are implemented. It identifies the responsible party and when it'll be implemented throughout the project, maybe during construction, maybe during development, but it's basically the guiding document. And then next steps, we're currently in the 45-day public comment period on the draft EIR. So that is running through June 1st. And then any comments, like I mentioned earlier, any comments that we received tonight or during the 45 days will be addressed in the final EIR. And then the final EIR will go to the Planning Commission for consideration. Daniel, I can turn it back to you, or I can finish it off.
Let's go ahead and finish it off.
Okay, great. So how to submit a comment? Of course, we're welcoming all verbal comments tonight. On Stantec's side, we are documenting the comments. We'll also go back and rewatch this video to make sure we did capture them. But written comments are also really helpful. It just gives us a way to ensure we're capturing your comments. So here, there's an email address where you can email your comments. It's techparkproject@campbellca.gov. And there's a suggested subject line, which would be the name of the project, Campbell Tech Park Project EIR. You can also mail your comments, and that would be to Daniel Fama's attention at the Planning Division at City Hall. And that is it. Thank you.
Thank you very much for the report. We're going to do the commissioner's questions. Let's start with Commissioner Bookbinder.
Thank you for that thorough presentation. One question. So as I understand it, the categories of environmental impacts are given there. I remember we asked earlier on, is parking an environmental impact? And we were told no. So if people want to say that we did not adequately consider the impact on parking, that's just not part of this because it's out of scope. Am I right?
Correct.
Okay. Is traffic part of it?
Not in the traditional sense. Traffic operations, if it presents a safety impact, could be a CEQA issue. And then V&T, which is a different measure of traffic, is a consideration under CEQA. But traditional level of service that is a measure of vehicle congestion is not a CEQA consideration.
Okay. What would constitute a safety issue?
If you had, let me think. We had I think some years ago, a situation where a project could have resulted in excess vehicle queuing in the left-hand turn lane that could result in vehicles backing into an intersection. And so that conflict could actually result in potential vehicle collisions, which itself is a safety issue, and not just a congestion.
Okay. I have a
It's a pretty high bar.
Right. I have a premonition that a number of people may be here to talk about traffic, so I want to make sure that we know what is in scope and what is out of scope. That's all I have.
And to clarify too, we are evaluating project impacts on existing conditions.
But could you then perhaps describe where it is appropriate to discuss such concerns if this is not the place?
Concerns with existing traffic conditions?
Anything that's quote out of scope, I think it might be helpful to then point people to where that does belong.
You mean like the neighborhood traffic calming program?
If that sounds good to me.
So just to discuss it. Like, would this be coming back to the planning commission on the project itself?
Well, there are some things that are simply outside the scope of the project. I mean, if there are existing issues within a neighborhood, those are really more policy considerations for the city council, perhaps as part of this capital improvement plan, but that is not within the scope of this particular application.
Do you want to, oh, sorry, I was going to say, do you want to ask your other questions? Then I'll come back to the vice chair.
I didn't really have.
Okay.
Is parking off because of AB 2079 or?
And also reforms to CEQA itself.
Other questions, Commissioner Tomcar?
No.
Commissioner Zisser?
Coming to me now?
Yeah, we're going left to right.
Okay, so, I think maybe I've reviewed another EIR in the 5 years I've been here. So it's a daunting document and it looks very complete. And I have a lot of things I wrote down, but it's probably, most of them are not appropriate for this particular in terms of giving input on the EIR. So I'm going to be interested in what the audience has to say. I was on the original scoping and also I also saw the original application. So, my concerns continue to be about the egress and, the egress and ingress to this property. That's to me the single biggest issue in terms of it being one place, one way in and one way out. So I guess the only question I have that I would like a little clarification on that issue is make clear to me, to us, what is being done in terms of as part of the project, in terms of, and this is in the transportation area, in terms of the in terms of the roads, the technology parkway and associated streets that are going to be part of this project, and what are the mitigations and improvements that are being suggested as part of the CIR. Can you kind of answer that a little bit?
Well, I guess what impact are you referring to?
Well, in this document, they talk about the questions of entry to the location from Kirtner and McGlincy onto the Parkway, and those issues associated with it. So I don't have it all in front of me at the moment. I just know that there's a lot of things in there about what is considered part of the project, what's not considered part of the project.
I mean, if you're alluding to emergency vehicle access, I mean, that has been addressed in the EIR. And it really is part of the project review. The fire department does a very extensive analysis of site access. So the project does have secondary emergency egress that is existing through the adjacent mobile home park, and that had been negotiated by the former RDA as part of the current Campbell Technology Campus. And so that retains in existence. The fire department also required, as part of the alternative means and measures approval, enhanced fire protection safety requirements for the buildings themselves. So in terms of adequate safety access, I mean, that has been addressed as just kind of a critical component to any project review.
Okay.
And of course, the project itself doesn't physically modify any of the existing roadway that leads to the site.
Okay. That's what I thought. Yeah, I had some things here that I think are answered in it after I wrote it down. And then there's some questions I have that aren't really relevant to the EIR. Can I just clarify one thing though? I used to work in the water and wastewater business a long time, in another life. And the issue of the sewer systems and the stormwater systems. Now, did I read this right, that we have separate systems, right? We have a stormwater system that drains into probably the creek, right?
Yeah.
Among other places. And then the sewer system is independent, goes to the plant in Milpitas, or North San Jose. So those are separate systems, right?
Yeah.
And in this, they talk about that the West Valley Sanitation has evaluated the needs, right? That they said that you know, I've assumed that they have done the calculations on what the sewer capacity will need to be, and they talk about that. And I assume that's done by the West Valley Sanitation Department, district, right? Is that correct?
Anna, can you speak to that?
Yeah, sure. So are you just wanting to make sure that stormwater runoff has been evaluated and accounted for in the existing available infrastructure and capacity?
Yeah, both the sewer, those are separate. The sanitation district handles the sewer, if I'm not mistaken. And then when we have, what I didn't realize is a stormwater group that handles the stormwater issues separately. So both of those have or will be evaluating this project.
Yeah, so stormwater is addressed in the hydrology and it's in the hydrology and water quality section.
Right.
And then the sewer is, excuse me. Also, I should also add that the stormwater is evaluated in the initial study as well. And in the initial study, excuse me, it was evaluated in the, sorry, one sec, please. Sorry. Excuse me, I'm not feeling the best tonight. I apologize for that. Stormwater was evaluated in the initial study and it was scoped out. It's further discussed at a high level in the EIR and also in the cumulatives and in the effects found not to be significant. And then the sewer is discussed in section 3.9 of the draft EIR. And that's our utilities section.
Okay. All right. I don't think I have anything else right now.
Vice Chair, any questions?
Thank you. Yes, I have questions regarding the air quality measurements in section 3.1. When were those measurements taken? I mean, what time of day were they taken and observed?
Let me pull that up for you. I don't have that information off the top of my head.
I guess what was it taken, like once in the morning, once in the afternoon, once in the afternoon? Yeah.
So air quality, we did not specifically go out to collect air quality measurements, but rather we did perform modeling. So we used the modeling for the results. So I would have to check. I don't know the specific input that was put into the model, but I can get that and follow back up with you through Daniel after this meeting.
Okay, because I just have a concern that, you know, you can use the model all you want. But what's the model based on? Like, is there a historical component to that? I would like to see the possibility of somebody going out there and actually measuring the air quality now during the heavy traffic loads of the morning and the late afternoon, and then during the day while business is operating. Because during construction, you're going to have a lot of air moving around between vehicle exhaust, dust being created, dirt, et cetera. So I would just like to get a feel for that if we could. Thank you.
Yeah, and I will just add, if you don't mind, the CalEMod, which is the modeling tool, it was developed for the California Air Pollution Control Officers Association in collaboration with the California Air Districts. So the tool itself has had a lot of input into the development of it. And default data has been provided by various California air districts to account for different local requirements and conditions. But we can certainly look into your comment more in the final EIR.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
That's it.
My main question, so there were 17 written comments on the first sort of scoping. Can you just help me like trace, like, how did that public comment then plug into the process? Like, did anything change based on the public comment that we've gotten so far? Because you sort of presented like what changed from then, but I'm just curious how much input has sort of shaped the plan.
Sorry, so let me just pull up the section number for the actual table itself, but comments that were received during the NOP were addressed in the EIR, and we included them in a table. And so let me just find that table number for you and the section so you have it. It's captured in section 1.2 under table 1.2-1. So let me go to that. So here we do list out all of the individuals, the private parties who provided written response, or excuse me, written comment. We also captured the planning commission's comments that provided comment during the scoping meeting. And then we have a column in that table that identifies, kind of, we summarize the comment and then pointing to the resource section in the CEQA document where that comment is addressed. So some of the comments, are you kind of looking for a summary of the type of comments that were received?
Yeah, it's the 300-page document. Can you tell us what page number that was on?
Yeah, so this table is in section 1.2, and 1.2 starts on page 1-3. And so the table starts at the bottom of page 1-3. And then it points you kind of to like a summary of each comment, a summary of the response, our initial response, and then it points you directly to which resource section or chapter section in the draft EIR where you could get more information and where the comment is actually addressed.
Okay, but I found it now. So I guess my question is, there were a lot of these that were about sort of traffic related. So like, where did those then get funneled?
So if it's directly related to a comment, and I'm just making this up, of like, oh, the project's going to bring more traffic, since traffic's not a CEQA issue per se, that our response might say something along the lines of, issues and impacts related to traffic, are not a CEQA issue, or there was some related to crime, which also is a CEQA issue per se. So we would maybe just kind of share in response that, it's not a CEQA issue. However, X, Y, and Z, we might provide some additional information. But yes, I do recall there were a lot of comments related to traffic on specific streets near the project site. And as Daniel was saying, a lot of those are related to the existing condition that are independent of this project.
Got it. Thank you. Any other questions? Yeah, go ahead.
One more thing. So, I don't know, maybe Daniel, you can give me some. So one of the things that I saw was the schedule in 4 phases. It's on page 78. So this is, in theory, you're going to start in early 2027 and be completed in 2032, early in 2030. So it's a 5-year, in theory, it's a 5-year long project. And, I'm guessing this could be the single biggest residential project that's ever been done in Campbell. And I'm certainly not familiar with how long these kinds of things take. And because we don't usually see something this substantial. So I guess my question is that I know they talk about mitigation of construction, but I see this as like, maybe Gary can help on this one. Over a 5-year period, you'd be building, first you build a certain section, then you build the next section, then you build the next section. And which means that there's a lot of construction going on in this period. And, I see it potentially having not only impact to the neighbors, like the mobile home people, but also to the people that are moving into it, that they're going to be moving in, and then for 2 more years or 3 more years, they're going to see construction. So I guess my question is this pretty much a standard kind of schedule for something this big? And I saw in there that there's a lot of mitigation in terms of the construction period, but is there anything that could be done beyond what we're talking about to mitigate the issue of ongoing construction in that long time frame? Or is there a way to collapse it? If Gary wants to chime in.
So let me weigh in just for context. Rob Easter, Community Development Director. Remember, today is a listening session. Just note, I'm not going to ask the environmental consultant or Daniel to talk about mitigation and ways to mitigate. If you have comments on the IR, like this should have been looked at more, or a question of could you mitigate, I'd submit that into the record. It's our job to run off, write that down, come back with a formal response.
All right, that's good. I get it.
All right. If there's no more questions, I will move us into the next portion of the meeting, which is the public hearing. So members of the public are welcome to come up. Like I said before, please identify yourselves. There's a red light on there. It's very tricky, but you tap it and that unmutes this. So whoever comes up first, best of luck to you. Do we have speaker cards? Great. So we'll start with people in the room here, and then we'll move to online.
Mark Rodriguez.
And just to reiterate, you have up to 2 minutes. We are timing you. You'll hear a beep and the lights will change. Let's see if he does it.
Perfect. Go ahead.
Yeah, and if you could identify yourself up front.
Good evening. My name is Mark Rodriguez. I'm the Chief Financial Officer and Secretary of West Valley Construction Company. Our company operates out of facilities on East McGlinty Lane and Campbell Technology Parkway. These facilities are not storage yards, they are active industrial yards. Every morning, our crews dispatch early. Heavy trucks move in and out, and large delivery vehicles regularly access our site throughout the day. West Valley Construction has been part of the city of Campbell for a long time. We were founded in 1958 and have been headquartered here since 1971. More than 50 years of continuous operation in the city. Generations of families have worked here, and many still do today. We are an underground construction contractor providing essential infrastructure services, including water, sewer, and utility work to the city of Campbell and surrounding communities. Our operations depend on safe, reliable, and predictable site access, including regular deliveries by large semi-trucks and the ability for our crews and emergency response teams to move in and out of our facilities at all hours. When a water main breaks, when there is a sewer failure, or when service must be restored quickly, we are one of the companies the public relies on. This is not theoretical work. It is emergency, time-sensitive infrastructure that keeps homes and businesses functioning. My comments focus on several significant concerns with the draft EIR that directly affect access, public safety, and industrial compatibility. First, ingress and egress. Project relies on the same limited access routes that currently serve multiple active industrial businesses, not just West Valley Construction. These streets already support construction companies, service providers, and other industrial employers with daily truck traffic and shift-based employees. The draft EIR does not adequately analyze real-world access conditions where entry and exit are periodically constrained or temporarily blocked due to truck maneuvering, deliveries, and queuing. Given the site configuration, this effectively creates a single point of access condition that, under CEQA, requires careful and realistic evaluation. That level of analysis is missing. Second, heavy truck traffic. West Valley Construction routinely receives large semi-truck deliveries that require additional space, timing, and turning radii.
Thank you very much. Ken, who's up next?
Chris Darman.
Hello? I think finish for Mark. Can I ask for more time than 2 minutes?
Madam Chair, we're doing 2 minutes for each member.
We're in 2 minutes. Okay, fair enough. Let me finish up for Mark. He gave you an introduction of what we do. Our neighboring industrial users rely on similar truck access to serve their businesses and employees. However, the transportation analysis in the draft EIR appears to rely on assumptions more than consistent with passenger vehicle traffic than with ongoing heavy truck operations. As a result, the analysis understates queuing, temporary roadway blockages, and operational conflicts that are already today and would be exacerbated by the proposed project. Third, emergency access and public safety. Truck maneuvering and temporary access blockages can directly delay our ability to respond to a 24-hour basis to emergency infrastructure needs for the city of Campbell and surrounding communities. This is a critical public service function. The draft EIR does not demonstrate that reliable emergency access to the project site or to the surrounding industrial areas will be maintained at all times. The omission raises a clear public safety concern under CEQA. Fourth, the draft EIR does not provide an adequate response to prior technical comments. West Valley Construction previously submitted consultant comments identifying these access and truck-related issues in detail. CEQA requires a substantive response to such comments. It is not evident that the draft EIR meaningfully addresses those concerns or incorporates them into revised analysis or effective mitigation measures. Fifth, industrial compatibility with noise. This is an active industrial environment supporting multiple businesses and substantial workforce. Yet the noise analysis appears to exclude or minimize existing activity when establishing baseline conditions. In closing, these access, safety, and compatibility issues must be fully and accurately analyzed before the EIR is finalized. We will pursue all available avenues to ensure that this project does not compromise site access, public safety, or existing industrial uses. We urge the city to address these deficiencies now at the draft EIR stage, rather than carry them forward into an inadequate final EIR.
Thank you, Chris.
Thank you.
Got a question. I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
Got a question. I didn't catch your name.
My name is Chris Darman with West Valley Construction.
Okay, so you're associated with West Valley.
Yes.
Do you have how long have you worked there?
24 years I've been at that site in Campbell.
Okay. Do you have I know this is not a session to come up with solutions, but if, let's say we needed the homes and the homes had to go there.
Sure.
What would you?
So let me just start by saying we're not opposed to the housing. We understand it. Everyone needs it. We're with it. Our thing is we need to continue to do business as we have. And we're in a zoned light industrial area, right? McGlincy Lane, as per the 2040 scope, is labeled as a commercial industrial collector roadway. So industrial commercial. So light industrial zone, the plan is to put residential behind it. We want to protect our businesses and all the other businesses on McGlincy that are light industrial.
Makes sense. Thank you.
Yeah, and let me just go on for a second here.
Can I suggest something, Chris?
Sure.
Because we have to.
Sure.
Moving forward. This is to gain information. So I would suggest that if you, per my fellow commissioner, he's looking for solutions, is if you have ideas and solutions, I suggest that you write them down and submit them to the city and to the consultant in a very large way that
sure
have recommendations, then rather than just throwing out stuff right here in the next minute or two.
We can definitely write it down.
Great.
Appreciate it.
Can I ask a question to the?
Well, you want to know the solution to this?
No, he does. But,
Sure.
But I'll be willing to hear it for sure. I was going to add for my comment that, I really appreciate construction guys have very long roots in the community coming here to help us out. And if somebody's in the business of building has concerns, it's like at least a yellow light to me. So I concur. Write it down, send it in, put your letterhead on it, and don't spare the details.
Okay, great. We will do that.
Thank you, Chris. Ken, who's up next?
Susan Landry.
Good evening, Honorable Planning Commission. I was going to say council, but I think most of you do know me. I will state I am a landscape architect and I am in construction. So does that give me some clout? Okay, good. You have my letter here. I'll start with the fact that you gave an incomplete summary of my comments on page 1-9. You're missing my concern about the traffic backup at Kirtner and McGlinchey. And I will state also on page 49, Thomas Keller brought up the same issues and their response was Kirtner is more than 0.4 miles away and does not require CEQA unless there's a significant safety related impact. The intersection of Central Park and Union is with 1,950 linear feet. That is less than 0.4 miles. If the traffic backs up at Kirtner and McGlinchey, which it does right now, I live on Kirtner and it backs up past my house. It takes me 3 or 4 lights to get out at 17. The report doesn't even mention the word Kirtner in the description of a street. You cannot get from McGlinchey to Highway 17 without going on Kirtner. So if the traffic backs up, which it does at Kirtner and McGlinchey, they're going to cut through Campbell Village. They're going to go over to Union and cut through Central Park. The intersection of Central Park and Union is 1,950 feet, which is less than 0.4 miles. And if you do it as the crow flies, the whole stretch of Central Park Avenue is within that 0.4 miles. The issue is the traffic will go around through Campbell Village because it's a stop sign and it's who gets at each side. So if McGlinchey's backed up and you get on Kirtner, you get through the light quicker. And so our whole concern has been from the beginning, there is a safety concern on Central Avenue, Dallas, Salerno, into Campbell Village, onto Kirtner. Yes, we want sidewalks. The multimodal plan is starting to address that issue, but there's nothing that addresses our impact. And we are within the 0.4 miles. And I included a nice little map. You guys know I love to draw them. So thank you.
Thanks, Susan.
Did you have a question?
Oh, I just said thank you.
Oh, okay.
I did.
Do you have a question?
Yeah, I do.
Go ahead. There's one question.
Oh, okay.
Weren't you a planning commissioner at one time?
No, I was the city council member and the mayor twice. I think I appointed some of you guys. So be nice to me. Yes.
Good.
You had a question, Matt?
No, thank you for your presentation. I think. it
Oh,
was
come
very
on, ask
clear.
me a question. Thank you.
Thank
Good map.
Yeah.
you. Ken, who's up next?
That's it for the speaker cards, unless someone, okay, I have Natalie Strange online who would like to speak.
Is there anyone else in the room who'd like to speak to?
You want to do
Yeah, you
it?
usually do all the room people first. Yeah, let's do everybody in the room and then we'll move online. So come on up and please identify yourself. And that's okay. Yeah.
My name is Graciela Marquesan and good evening. I live on Normandy and we fought for many years to close the Salerno area so that we could stop the traffic from running through. And I've even sat there and timed traffic. And so all you're doing by not providing alternative proper access, you're putting the pressure right back on us, Campbell Village. And we're asking you to keep in mind that we chose to stay part of Campbell. We even tax ourselves separately for the services. Please don't forget about us.
Thank you. And I think in the back there, one more.
Good evening.
Good evening.
My name is Tony Godino. I walk Ethan Worley Park every day. And the traffic right now, there's no parking there. So when they build the buildings, there will be no parking there. Saturdays, Sundays, they have parties here. So I'm just wondering how they're going to address that issue with the park being there and all the traffic going through. Because right now, one way in, it's backed up. Especially when These guys are trying to get out of their parking lot right next to the perk ponds. They can't, they can't get out, so I'll just wait for them to back up. So that's a big issue. Because you have the park, and then you have people parking that aren't even in the park because they're in different buildings on McClincy, and they drop off their people in vans. They park their cars there, they pick them up at 8 o'clock in the morning, they drop them off at 5, then they go home. So I don't know if you guys have been out there during the daytime, but there's a lot of vehicles out there aren't being used. They're just sitting there. So I just thought I'd bring that up to you guys.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Go Cardinal.
Said go Cardinal. Anybody else in the chamber? All right, we have at least one person online.
Natalie Strange.
Hi. So my concern, I live on West Valley Drive. I also own property here. And my concern is that the DEIR does not adequately analyze how traffic from this project will function within a physically constrained road network. This project is basically relying on a single access point feeding into an already congested 2-lane road on McGlincy, with what seems to be no capacity for expansion, no room for additional lanes or medians, and existing impacts from delivery vehicles at block lanes. And that road then feeds into, as it's been mentioned by others, Kirtner, Union, and what has not been mentioned, West Valley Drive, which are all roads that are already heavily impacted during peak hours at this time. So there's no second outlet and seems to be no planned roadway improvements that would increase capacity. Given these constraints, the DEIR should analyze whether project generated traffic will queue back into the site or spill into the public roadway and how that interacts with existing congestion on surrounding streets. The DEIR also does not appear to adequately address cut-through traffic into adjacent residential streets, including West Valley Drive and surrounding neighborhoods, or parking spillover into areas that are already impacted. So there's no clear analysis of pedestrian safety, particularly given the lack of sidewalks on McGlincy. And there are existing conditions that will be exacerbated by this project. Without a clear and detailed analysis of these issues, it is unclear how traffic and circulation impacts can be considered less than significant or properly mitigated. So my request or question is the DEIR going to be revised to include a more complete analysis of circulation, queuing, cut-through traffic, parking spillover, and pedestrian safety, along with specific and enforceable mitigation measures, or is this even being taken into account? Our street is already so impacted as it is. We can't even park in front of our own homes. So, and I'm not hearing anything about how you guys are going to implement anything for us.
Thank you. Anyone else online?
Trudy LaFrance.
Trudy, you can go ahead if you're there. You can see the little symbol.
Yeah.
She's unmuted, so I believe it's on her end.
Trudy? Trudy, I'm sorry, we're not able to actually hear you on the conference here. Give her 10 seconds to maybe mess with the microphone. Anybody else on the line? All right, 5 seconds.
Can I call Trudy to try to get her on the phone?
Do we have a way of projecting that?
Come back around to, I assume there are other people who want to comment.
No, that's your last one.
Tried that.
By the microphone.
Possibly putting it on speaker and then just having it go off.
Hold on, I have her, I can put her on.
Yeah, put her on speaker. Yeah. Quick thinking.
Hi Trudy, you're on speakerphone?
Okay. Mine is also a transportation issue. Can you hear me?
We can.
Yes.
Okay. I am glad that there will be more housing built But my concern is for the local residents able to safely exit their neighborhood at Union and Kirtner, and concerned about traffic cutting through our neighborhood when there's an estimated net in DEIR about 1,368 more trips per day. Then when they did an accident discovery, they said there was only one accident for the 5-year period up to 2022 on McGlinchey. But that was only a short period. And I think that there needs to be more study on that too. Thank you.
Thank you, Trudy. Thank you, Susan, for getting her on the line.
Thanks, Trudy.
All right, last call. Anybody else online?
No.
Okay. With that, I will close the public hearing. Again, we're not making any decisions, but I think maybe we might have a couple more questions for staff if we can do that. So why don't we do one more round based on the public comment we just heard?
I don't have any question.
We do questions/comments.
Okay.
Again, trying to stick to the EIR if possible.
Yeah, I mean, again, I'm assuming that, we had a lot of comments about traffic and circulation and egress, ingress, and I had been on the original scoping, and I had that question, and just to confirm, this is not part of the EIR, cannot be handled through the EIR. Am I correct on that?
Well, I'm sorry. Well, there are existing conditions you're referring to?
I'm just saying that most of the commentary, including my own, is about the traffic and circulation associated with location nearby, Kirtner and McGlinchey coming into the parcel. And we're here for the EIR. So I'm assuming still that this isn't really relevant to the EIR, that they can't handle this kind of issue. Is that correct?
Well, traditional traffic congestion is no longer a CEQA consideration.
Okay. So my only comment is that if it can't be handled through the EIR, then it has to be handled by the city to take a look at this. So my recommendation is a separate thing. That's, I would like to, I know the city council has talked about this, about that area, but I don't think there's any other than the multimodal study that's going on, which is going to be complete in 2027, which may or may not deal with this issue in total. My recommendation is the city and the council has to look harder at this issue and in conjunction with this project, figure out solutions and put that higher on priority for the city to deal with. So that's my take on this whole thing, because I think that is going to be an important thing. Once this thing, I'm sure there's going to be issues associated with construction, but I think the longer term issue is whether or not the traffic is going to be a problem going in and out of this project, along with sharing it with the light industrial people that are nearby, including West Valley Construction. So to me, this needs to be referred to the city council for further consideration. That's my take.
Thank you, Commissioner Zisser. Commissioner Comcar.
Thank you. Thank you. So in my past life, I used to be bit long. Okay. Closer to this.
They only listen to me.
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
So in my past life, I used to be a highway engineer. And as a highway engineer, I would work on highway, highway design, on-ramp, off-ramp, and just want to make sure that we're not missing a possible solution here. I doubted if it would pencil out, but what if there was a highway on-ramp and highway off-ramp to the sites just on the 17 North? Because I know if you want to make it an interchange, 17 southbound access, the cost is going to be prohibitive. But if you're just talking about a right turn on ramp and a right turn off ramp, that may actually pencil out given how many cars and how many homes are going to be built here. And it also will take away pressure on existing neighborhoods because they don't have to go through McClincy if the goal is to get on 17 north. Now, if they have to get on 17 south, that's a different story. Or if they come here from 17 southbound, that's also a different story. But it may be able to, and so I think it might be worth analyzing this possibility in the EIR. And whatever the, analysis, we understand, but, because no structures would be needed, no bridges, nothing, it's just a right in, right out, as a partial solution.
Thank you.
Okay, yes, sir. Okay. First thing is Campbell Technology Parkway is the first street going into this project, correct? Do I have it right? Yes, I assume we're going to change that name after this is all done. And I was involved with the development of this in 1997, I think. And my friend, who was Gordon Reynolds, really wanted that park and even bigger park. And the city was kind enough to put a plaque in that park with his name on it. So I'm wondering, I want to get this right this time. And if the state's telling us we need more housing, and we all know we need more housing, it's not a leap of logic to say we're going to need more infrastructure. And the infrastructure everybody seems to say we need is more street. So the first thing I would suggest is if the Sacramento wants to tell us that we got to do a bunch of stuff, maybe it's time to hold out our hand and say pay for some of it. And that's the first suggestion. The second thing is, I went to this movie theater. It used to be a drive-in movie theater for those of you who aren't as old as me. And I went to it, and I seem to remember Chris Litch used to be connected to what is now Campbell Technology Parkway. And we might think about, it's like a fence in the way, and maybe that'll take a little pressure off of what's going on with this very choke pointish traffic pattern that's going on. And
Christledge is a private road. I mean, I get what you're saying.
well, there's an answer for that.
It's a private road.
Back to you, Mr. City Attorney. And I'll hold my further comments.
All right. Commissioner Bookbinder.
The only comments I'll make are that I think it's very easy to go out of scope on this kind of thing. I think when you do anything, it will bring up ideas that, I think the city should be this way. I think this thing should be done. I think that should be done. And I do not envy the people running this project who are desperately trying to scope it. And it is a counterintuitive process. So I'd like to thank everybody for coming out. Any issues that are out of scope, I hope you'll raise with the city council. I remember recently a lot of people came to city council because they had strong opinions, and city council acted on that pretty promptly. So I think if you show up with all your friends, city council will do something.
Vice Chair.
Thank you. I too would like to echo Adam's comments. Thank you, everybody in the public, for coming here tonight. I wish more of you would have maybe been willing to express your views, but we get it. And unfortunately, the traffic piece is not part of the draft EIR except for impacts. So it's kind of a double-edged sword. They can talk about it, but we can't bring in solutions. But I like what I've heard tonight. I've been through that area many times, and it's a nightmare. So to echo what Alan says, city council needs to address this. And I think there are solutions. We just need to get everybody back in the fold and provide your comments, because that's the way the city works. If you provide your comments, Campbell's pretty open to that. So again, the EIR is what it is, but obviously traffic is the main piece here. And so the city needs to address it. So that's all I have to say. Thank you all for being here. Appreciate it.
Echoing a lot of the comments here. Again, thank you for your input on this. Thank you for your public comment. It's helpful in the process. I imagine it could be disappointing because we aren't really speaking on it. It's not part of the EIR. That is the way the process plays out sometimes. I'm going to follow up with staff and talk about when might this be on the agenda in a way we could have a conversation on it, whether that be at planning or whether that be at a city council meeting. So please keep checking the website, checking, your social media for future discussions of this and other projects, because, your voice plays a big role. I've seen, just echoing, like, it make a big difference. So appreciate you all coming out here tonight for this. With that, I am going to.
I have one more
Yeah,
thing.
please.
Daniel, does the city ever do like what the Urban Land Institute provided with a weekend charrette of what could possibly happen between downtown and the Pruneyard? Could we do something like that for this area?
Sorry, a weekend what?
Charrette. It's a design study over a couple of days where public professionals are invited to a large room, and you pin up ideas on a wall. You have a map and people just draw stuff, and you get community engagement, you get professional engagement. I don't know if you've ever done that, but this seems like a perfect opportunity as maybe a test case to see if that could work. Is that a possibility?
So I think some commissioners involved last year, we did it might be something different, Commissioner Eklund. It was the Urban Land Institute Technical Advisory Panel. And they just published the findings. I looked at the section between downtown and the Pruneyard, so that might ring a bell. I only think you get one of those every couple of years. We've used that one. Great idea on, it's a great opportunity to bring professionals in and sort of do imagining of a space. I think for this, that the time for that probably would have been during the housing element general plan to scope out and idealize what the planning was for this. A little bit of the history of this, this was planned for housing with some industrial. The project you have on file is a builder's remedy project, which has different terms. Means the project, generally the city has to process as is. Its compliance with our existing general plan is not a factor. But my broad response would be at the time you get to looking at how to plan a site or new zoning, probably the best opportunity for sure.
Well, I'm only specifically looking at the traffic piece, the sidewalks, where sidewalks could go, which is part of the intermodal plan possibly, but also how do you mitigate traffic and get the public's input? I understand the builder's remedy, the housing is done. What's done is done. Perhaps getting the public involved with traffic, with professionals to say, look, this is what's going on. You can go out and look at it. And then there's some ownership and agency between the city and the public. It's just a thought.
I'd only say to echo your comments. I mean, Campbell obviously is looking for a win-win for housing at the site and to do it in a way that there's not traffic impacts and impact to our industrial customers that are there. So echoing you said, welcome, any members of the public to offer solutions to some of the issues identified.
Yeah, no problem. Thank you. With that, I am closing the public hearing items and moving us on to new business, the Planning Commissioner Subcommittee reports. I was not expecting one tonight because I believe both committees are working on action items that we'll do later. Is that right?
I mean, we've significantly revised our proposal in light of recent city council actions.
No, for sure.
We do have stuff to present.
That's fine. Do you, I guess maybe for both of you, do you have a rough timeline for when you'd like to? Because Rob and I could probably game plan agendas around that.
So Matt, correct me if I'm wrong. We're trying to meet with developers. We've had some trouble getting that scheduled. I've sent out some more notes. We have met with 3 developers so far, but no affordable housing developers so far. I'd like to keep the commission abreast of what we're doing. So I'd like to briefly talk about what we're changing in light of recent city council actions. In terms of the remaining items are, I want to talk to some nonprofit developers. I believe we're going to have a presentation from Parks, and I wanted to talk to staff about this to see how this would actually be implementable to make sure we have staff on board. And possibly some city attorney time to make sure that I'm not way over the city's skis. I don't think I am, but we should check.
Great. And for the streamlining?
So we received some contacts from the retail broker side and the industrial broker side from Nathan. So Alan and I will get together and reach out to these folks and see if we can set up a meeting and get their feedback on what their clients' biggest concerns are with, conditional use permits.
Perfect. And you're thinking full report probably in the summer.
Yeah, probably in the summer, right?
Great.
Which is right around the corner.
It is. Looking forward to it.
In terms of timeline, like, ideally, like, we would be able to do this now, but we have to consult with some people and talk with staff and so forth, but as soon as possible, honestly. Is it now a good time to give the summary? Like a progress report?
Yeah, you can go ahead. Yeah, a couple minutes.
So the change in policy that I'm referring to was the previous city council meeting. If people in the audience are aware, I think people here are certainly aware. We had a very streamlined implementation of the Starter Home Revitalization Act, SB 1123, which had led to a lot of projects coming up. This led to a backlash from neighbors who brought this to the council. It turns out, I guess, when we designed that implementation to be streamlined to produce a lot of housing, I think the city council may not have expected it to produce a lot of housing. It feels like a repeat of the ED1 situation that they had in Los Angeles, where they streamlined housing, and then when it actually produced housing, they kind of walked it back. In light of that, our proposal is changing to have a set of local streamlining and higher density options for developers, which are both customized to the part of the city that they're in and are lower density than what the state provides, but also are more streamlined. So for example, SB 9 allows you to build up to 4 units on parcel using a combination of lot splits and duplexes. However, you have to have an owner occupancy affidavit for the following 3 years, which means that you can't do regular construction financing. As a result, these projects have been very rare. If we were to, for example, do our own local lot split ordinance that did not have the owner occupancy restriction, but for example, restricted to 3 homes instead of 4 on a parcel, that would be the kind of trade-off I'm talking about. Similarly, the kind of streamlining we'd be doing for starter homes, smaller homes under SB 1123, we would cap it to, say, in most of the city, 5 units instead of 10 units on a given parcel. However, in the SB 79 areas, that's areas within a half-mile of a transit stop, where the alternative is not nothing or starter homes, it's starter homes or 4 to 6, possibly 4 to 7 story towers. We would streamline up to 10 units to provide a smaller scale alternative. I think this provides both a voice from the neighborhoods. It is sensitive to the particular locations in the city, and it also provides streamlining so we will actually have more housing production, which I believe the city is still intending to do.
And if I can chime in, and this is specifically to the attorney, we're not trying to call it SB 9 or SB 1123. We want to call it Campbell 9 or Campbell 1123, something that's basically uses a lot of the elements from the state bill, from the Senate bill, but with some of the restrictions gone, so it would be more usable.
No, it would be our own lot split ordinance. I believe we can just implement SB 1123, and the timing of permits is an administrative thing that the city can do, I believe. I think we're currently waiting to hear back from HCD on that, but I expect we'll know within a couple weeks. And either that will be an administrative thing, or we'll have to have a separate ordinance. But either way, the city does have land use sovereignty. We can implement this however it needs to be implemented.
And this will address the problem of one size fits all, which state's trying to do, and well, size doesn't fit all. Campbell's different than, some of the larger cities. So this will address that. And we believe HCD will support it because it will help promote housing production. It's just the right kind of housing and the right density. So,
okay.
So given what the city council has said, I hope to meet with some of them and see if they're sympathetic to this. And Hopefully we'll get some early feedback from them, but that's the approach I'm taking. So that in addition to still the express lane permitting that I described for larger projects, as well as reforming our inclusionary zoning standards, which are still in the plan. We're probably going to be dropping or seriously scaling back the idea of pausing parks fees just because it's a really big lift. The Parks Department really has no other source of funding. I think we're going to recommend the Parks Department should find a different source of funding, but we're not going to recommend cut off their funding and let them, sink or swim, which I think is not helpful to anybody. That's the current state of things. If anybody has any comments or notes, we are very interested in feedback.
Yeah, I mean, the only thing I would say is, since you're getting together with the city attorney, is the issue of providing an ordinance that varies from what the state law is. This is what came up with the 1123, SB 1123 versus our ordinance that made it more lenient with the 2334. So I don't understand the legality issues in terms of whether or not a city can, in the case of the example, the city changed the definition of vacancy, okay, from what the state stipulated. And so the question is whether or not the city can override the state. Okay, the state has been overriding us for the last 5 years. So the question is, can a city overwrite the rules the state puts in their laws? That's all I'm saying.
Yeah. So as a note for some context. Oh, I'm sorry. Yes,
I don't
please.
mean to
I was just going to weigh in. As I understand what's being proposed is not overriding the state's various housing laws, but instead providing an alternative that applicants could apply for instead. I mean, as to what the carrot is there, I guess it's quicker processing or something along those lines.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, we wouldn't be looking to try and override the state laws. Those would still be options. There's nothing we can really do about that. But from what I understand, what you're proposing is an alternative that would be more palatable for the city and hopefully offer a carrot as well to developers that may induce them to choose it over the state provisions.
Yeah, basically based on the idea that everybody ran to this when we made it fast to do. The note I wanted to add was that I believe Los Angeles has, the way they consider things vacant is there can be a structure on it, but it can be condemned or utilities can be disconnected, and that counts as vacant. You don't actually have to have it physically knocked down.
So as I know as a practitioner, of that's my day job. A lot of people choose, a lot of clients do not go through with SB9 because of that 3-year residency requirement, and if that was taken away, you would get more applications that fits the neighborhood,
These people were upset about there being 10 houses next door, and if there are 3 houses next door, it's a lot more in tune with what's already there.
All right. Well, looking forward to the full report.
Thank you. I did have it sent out, but it will, of course, be changed as we talk to more developers and so forth. There are a lot of footnotes.
Yep. And whenever we do schedule, let's make sure we do it in a way that we all get your document.
Yeah, I sent it out earlier this evening, but I don't expect people to have had a chance to read it.
So we can coordinate once we're getting closer to the actual meeting.
Yeah. I'll talk to staff about when we'll actually try and schedule trying to adopt this, send it to the city council and try and get them to pass it.
Can I ask that? Since we're blessed with the presence of the city. We're a general city, not a charter city, correct? Do I have that correct?
We are a general law city, correct?
Yes. Can you speak to any history of us ever trying to become a charter city?
There's only been very informal discussions about becoming a charter city. A lot of it came about when after Proposition 218 came into effect and limited the city's taxing authority, there was some discussion about whether we would have more authority as a charter city. But ultimately, there was not much interest.
Am I correct in my conclusion that if we went through the hurdle to become a charter city, it would give us more ability to write the kind of laws he's talking about?
Probably not. The state has been very explicit in most cases in stating that their statutes are matters of statewide concern and therefore trump any contrary charter provision.
Boo. Okay, I will move us on then after, yeah. Which
on this here, right now?
Can we do that?
I mean, it's agendized. Can you open up?
You have to allow comment on every item on the agenda.
Okay. You have up to 2 minutes. Welcome back.
Thank you. I want to hold you guys accountable. It's on the agenda. You have to open it to public hearing. Thank you. I'm concerned about things that are not on the agenda. You have an item subcommittee. He started talking, we had no idea what the actual topic was, what the subcommittee name was, what you're studying. He's talking to developers, you're writing rules. Where's the public get input into that process? And I complained about this while I was on council. It seems like you guys are operating under the radar, basically, is where I'm coming from. Is you start a topic, I have no idea what you're talking about. I have no idea what the subcommittee is called. I have no idea. It's not on the agenda. It's not clear. And I'm very concerned of getting rid of an occupancy requirement. The biggest thing is we don't want short-term rentals. If you're going to force us to build housing, which I do know we need housing. In fact, I didn't say this under Tech Park, but I support the housing. Something else will be worse. But if you let people do short-term rentals, then you're defeating why we need workforce housing. So you need the occupancy requirement. That's why it's there, is to keep people from renting them out to short-term rentals. So I would strongly object to release, that 3-year requirement is there for a reason. So that's why I think you need to have better public disclosure of what you guys are doing.
Susan, under SB 1123, there is no occupancy requirement.
He was just talking about releasing it.
SB 9.
Okay, whatever it is, they all should maintain that there should be no short-term rentals. They should maintain that they should be owner occupied. We are getting people that are, or we are getting corporations that are buying up these houses, not renting them or leaving them unoccupied or renting them, like I said, to short-term rentals. So I would strongly object to getting rid of any of those requirements.
Susan, we've been doing subcommittees for the last couple of years. We do subcommittees with a couple of commissioners, and we do an investigation. We write a report that comes to the commission publicly. And
but it doesn't list it in what it is.
I think we just want better minutes.
I understand that we should have said what the specific subcommittees are, but in terms of getting public input, when the reports get written, when the drafts reports get written, which will be whatever, 2 or 3 months, we'll have a couple of reports. It'll be coming in front of the commission for review publicly. So to that point, we're just doing a research investigation.
And where does the public get to be involved in that process?
At the time it comes in for review by the commission.
I know, but if you're out talking to developers and having a conversation and you're not talking to the public, you're selectively picking opinions and discussion. And I feel like you need to be more transparent in what you're doing on your subcommittees. I would like to see more information provided. And if you are out talking to developers, then you should be talking to the community to also give input, to write the report, to bring it back to council and committee.
Well, I think it's a fair point.
That's the point I was trying, that's the main point I'm trying to make.
I think that's a fair point.
Okay.
But I'll defend, since I'm not on the subcommittees, I want to defend them because I think if you had looked at the agendas, not just today's, you'd have the context that we all picked up from. And I don't think it's a good use of our time to repeat the previous session's discussions so that people who just came for one meeting can have a full thing. We'd never get through anything. So I don't generally disagree with you, but in this, because I'm watching from minute to minute, they're doing the right thing and saying, before we say something stupid, we're going to get our facts and bring it to you all, then have an opinion, then the public can weigh in on it.
It's more of an educational exercise for
I know, but
us.
if you guys are out contacting specific portions of developers and things like that and writing a report, then you should also be asking the public for the comment.
And
And yes, if it says subcommittee and you're going to make a report, at least state what the name of the subcommittee or the topic.
That's
Okay, that's my point I'm trying to
Yeah,
make.
that
okay?
one I don't have it.
Thank you. Thank you for your feedback. I agree, like, updating the agenda should list these things, et cetera, et cetera. We are looking for feedback. Please come talk to me after the meeting. We'll schedule something. I would like to get as feedback from people who have experience on this stuff. Like, I'm trying to talk to as many people as possible. Matt and I will set up a meeting. And we will have what's that?
Give me your email, we'll certainly hear from.
Sure. And also, we will be bringing this to a public meeting when we are writing a report and before we send it to city council and so forth. We are really not trying to do this under the table, but this is the same method we use to do streamlining, is that you do a lot of deep research and have one-on-one talks with people to get ideas about what are the blockers for various types of development. That said, I'd like to talk to you later. That's all I got.
Were you gonna?
I can say it.
Oh, you're gonna do director. Thank you. I think that is fair feedback. We could list the subcommittees and the description of what they are working on the agenda. I think that's something we should correct. And I would echo, like, we will be talking about some of these reports, and I think that is the forum in which we intended to get the public comment, but do appreciate it. Thank you for bringing this up. With that, I will turn this over to the report of the Community Development Director.
We'll be generally short. Number one, we'll make sure on our future agendas we list subcommittee names, reinforce that. Two, item obviously of interest to the public and Police Planning Commission, last Tuesday's council meeting. City Council reviewed options in regard to Campbell Starter Home urgency ordinance. After taking a lot of public testimony and staff report, Council adopted a new urgency ordinance implementing SB 1123 starter homes. It requires, going forward, to be eligible for a starter home project, property must be vacant at the time of application, which is different from the previous ordinance that allowed property that had a home on it to be rendered vacant during the redevelopment process. City Council also directed staff to develop a demolition control ordinance that would look at avoiding blight on properties, i.e. could a developer come in, propose a demolition permit, render a property vacant, it could sit for some time without being developed, without some future development. And advise that we talk to HCD on the ramifications of adopting a demolition control ordinance. Staff has submitted a technical advice request to HCD about a week and a half ago. We've got notice that they will start a preliminary review and should give us comments within the next week or two. And once we have more information, can provide an update. Three last items. I'm gonna look for our attorney support on the last one. Third one. As I noticed last time, we are down to just 2 planners in our planning office. So for folks who either are asking our assistance or needing help, a little patience in interim. We do know of some sharp planning candidates. We have officially posted and we'll be hiring an assistant and associate planner. One more item before I turn it over to Bill's help on the last one. Next Planning Commission meeting, as a reminder to the Commission, I have asked our Public Works Director and Recreation and Community Services Director to come and present on the world of park fees. So what are they? How are they accepted? What are they used for? What's the track record? Under the premise, if for some reason they were reduced or waived for additional projects, what are the ramifications of that? With that, the last one I was going to ask our city attorney's help on. I know some commissioners have gone to city council meetings and have provided some testimony and input under public comment. I've gotten a question, at least from one commissioner, Commissioner Buckbinder, on the rules and parameters around that. And just to give general guidance, if you would wish to do so, what is the parameters of how you disclose either your position or not and how you're speaking? Ask Bill to just address the commission.
Which I'd be happy to do. The good news is you don't entirely lose your rights as a citizen to address the city council. You may do so as an individual. You should make it clear that you are doing so as an individual and not speaking on behalf of the Planning Commission. And you need to be aware that if you are speaking on a matter that may come before you as a planning commissioner, and you take a position before the city council, or for that matter in public anywhere, that could result in a need for you to recuse yourself when it comes before the planning commission if it evidences a bias on your part. That's it.
Okay.
I have a question.
Go ahead.
This goes back to when you're talking about the demolition plan.
Yep.
So I don't know, about 10 years ago, I did some demolition and I had to get my permit and all that. And there was, I'll use the word onerous because I was young and naive at the time, but onerous requirements to recycle materials. And I remember I pulled out more nails than were originally in the building when I demoed it. And I just want to know how that recycling clause is going to be impacted with your new demolition parameters, and bear that one in mind, I guess.
I think it would remain the same. That's generally a state Cal Green requirement. You have to recycle your construction material. So,
but they would have to, because normally you want to use a lot of it in your new build because it's all right there ready to go. You save some. So I could see that making it really, nobody else wants to buy your old, hard, really hard, brittle wood. So from a feasibility standpoint, how's that going to work?
but that is a good point. If someone was intending to redevelop a property, demolish the property first, waited, and then build, it could present some issues on how you reuse those materials. So, we'd have to look at that.
Sorry, to be clear, the ordinance is changed already?
The urgency ordinance adopted by council has been modified from the previous ordinance. It requires that if you intend to do a starter home project, the property must be vacant at the time of application.
Okay, so how many of the existing applications had complete SB 330 pre-applications before that?
And this was in the council report, we have 16 applications. Half of them are in single family. All of the applications in single family have SB 330 applications.
Okay, so those will still go forward?
Sorry?
Those will still go forward?
At this time.
Okay.
Are you still looking at that issue in terms of whether SB 330 is applicable?
Yeah, it's part of the technical advice letter sent to HCD, the collection of issues around Campbell's ordinance, SB 330, demolition control ordinance. So a lot of these questions were asked in HCD.
Is the redo on the ordinance in conformance with the terminology in 1123 in terms of the vacancy specifically talking about abandoned or uninhabitable? Is that in line with that?
Yeah,
not just that it's
the language is almost verbatim in that regard.
Good.
So thank you. Just want to note that if we're concerned about people demolishing houses and leaving them uninhabitable, we had a solution to that problem.
Okay, one more question. We have an opening on the planning commission and there were applicants, and how's that going?
Thank you. Sorry, I put down my list, but didn't get to it. I pinged the clerk on that item. She noted that we have 2 applicants. Good. 2 is better than 1. 2 is better than 0. They are waiting for the return of a council member who's currently, I think, not local to come back, and they review the initial process for selecting the planning commissioner. So hopefully that will get started soon.
And are we involved in that at all?
You're not.
We just opened them.
Meet them on their first day.
Really?
We'll be involved when they start.
Wow. Yeah, I've been to some of those weddings.
Great. Anything else? No? All right. Well, thank you, members of the public, for attending. Thank you, staff. I will adjourn us to the next meeting of the Planning Commission on May 12th at 7 p.m. Thanks very much.
Thank you all.